What is up everyone, Halloween Cup is starting later today, so let's take a quick dive into this meta, check out some top teams to get ready for it. If you've played Halloween Cup in the past, you'll notice not much has changed since last year, since the typing restrictions are still the same. Only Pokemon with Poison, Bug, Dark, Ghost or Fairy typing will be allowed, and it creates a format where it's really a battle of the Poisons, Ghost types and Dark types with the occasional Bug and Fairy sprinkled in. This season has seen a couple new additions to the meta though, mainly Toxapex, which is ranked number 1. My opinion, maybe a tad overrated. It's definitely gonna be super strong, but also gets countered by some huge meta threats such as Nidoqueen, Frostlass, and Sableye, which even though it's only ranked 31, I think it's really one of the best Pokemon in this format. So it's gonna get kind of, I wouldn't say walled, but pretty countered by those, and they have been and will be very common here. So Toxapex might have a bit of a rough time, but still definitely extremely good. Then we also have Galarian Weezing, which will be a very interesting sweeper in this meta, but Fairy and Overheat, and then Sludge or Play Rough. I would say Play Rough might be a little better move just because it is stronger than Sludge, and you're only really gonna use Sludge on like Azumarill, Alolan, Ninetales, and even versus those, just having Play Rough for Azumarill or Overheat for Ninetales should be enough. But yeah, this will definitely be a monster. Once you get shields down, just Overheat everything, and it'll be a lot of fun. Besides that, we got Runerigus, which will be the hardest wall available for Nidoqueen, which is real nice, because Nidoqueen has always gone wild in this meta, and now it finally has a super hard wall in Runerigus. Runerigus, however, also gets super hard walled by Dark types, which are usually paired with Nidoqueen. So Runerigus will definitely be quite good, but perhaps a bit rock, paper, scissors. Anyway, let's get into the team, starting with a squad with the new Pokemon Toxapex, which, just like Nidoqueen, pairs incredibly well with any Dark type. Obstagoon, Mandibuzz, Umbreon could all work, but for this example, I decided to go with Umbreon, just because it's the best answer to Frostlass. Both Obstagoon and Mandibuzz can struggle with it. Umbreon, no problem. And that's important since Toxapex does struggle a bit with Frostlass, and it will be common. So having Umbreon with Toxapex is a good partner. There's several ways you can run this squad, either with Toxapex lead, with double Dark in the back. We've seen this with Nidoqueen as well. Honestly, if you don't have Toxapex, Nidoqueen here could work as well. It's a very common core we've always seen, and it works just as well with Toxapex now as it always did with Nidoqueen. So yeah, a Toxapex double Dark with Sableye as your pivot, Umbreon in the back. On Umbreon, by the way, run Last Resort in this meta. Psychic might seem interesting to hit like poison types, like Nidoqueen for super effective. But there's a ton of Dark types you want to hit Last Resorts on, and you really can't do anything without that. So definitely go Last Resort on Umbreon will be my suggestion. Another way you can run this core is with Umbreon in the lead and then Frostlass as a pivot. Frostlass Umbreon core is very strong as well. Can struggle a bit versus like Obstagoon, but I don't expect Obstagoon to be super common. And even if you see it in the lead, Frostlass still has a ton of play there, as you can survive a Night Slash and do a ton of damage back with an Avalanche. Frostlass will function as the pivot in this team, since it lures out some of the harder answers to Toxapex, like Sableye for example. If there's a Sableye lurking in the back, you can lure it out with Frostlass. If you have one Powder Snow of Energy lead, you can actually win the one shield there. Once the Sableye is out of the way, the Toxapex can hopefully clean up the rest. This core definitely struggles a bit versus the Bug Steel types like Fortress, Escavalier, and maybe even Bug Bite, Wormadam. But honestly, Umbreon has so much play versus all of these that you should definitely be able to play around it. Next up, we got another squad with some newly buffed Pokemon, Galarian Weezing and Runerigus, who happen to pair extremely well with each other. Because Runerigus, of course, struggles hard with Dark types and Grass types, which Weezing does very well against. And Weezing struggles very hard with Pokemon like Nidoqueen, which Runerigus just destroys. So overall, they cover each other extremely well. I'll be putting Galarian Weezing in the lead in this squad, which might seem a bit contradicting to what I said earlier in the video about Weezing being an extremely good sweeper, but I'm kind of a fan of putting sweepers in the lead sometimes, because that allows you to burn shields of your opponent quickly, and that sets up your other Pokemon, in this case Frostlass, and Runerigus to sweep in the back. Besides that, Weezing has access to Overheat, which will debuff your attack which is not ideal if you're switch locked or the only Pokemon left in the endgame. So putting it in the lead allows you to overheat, debuff your defense, and then clear that defense drop by dipping out into your safe switch, which will be Frostlass in this case, by the way. You don't want to safe switch Runerigus. Runerigus just gets absolutely hard walled by dark types. Frostlass still has some play there. About movesets, by the way, on Galarian Weezing, you're gonna want to run Fairy Wind and Overheat for sure. And then as a third move, you can either go with Play Rough and Sludge. I would go with Play Rough personally. Sludge is nice. It's like a bait move or to hit fairies. But in general, I do think Play Rough will perform a little better, as you can do a lot of damage without debuffing yourself. Then Frostlass is just standard Powder Snow, Shadow Ball, Avalanche. You could also consider running Sableye instead of Frostlass, by the way, would work just fine as well. Runerigus, also just standard Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball, Santum would work the best. This team is definitely not perfect. You're really gonna have to play around Pokemon like Trevenant and their Dark Poisons, but I think that should be quite manageable. We go from a new team to a classic, one of my favorite teams to run in last year's Halloween format, and I think it might work even better now. Team is Jellicent, Skuntank, and Dragalge, preferably Shadow Skuntank, running Poison Jab, Crunch, and Flamethrower. Jellicent I ran with Bubble, Ice Beam, and Shadow Ball, but you could also run Hex Bubble Beam there. It's really what you prefer. I love running Bubble, Ice Beam, because that gives you some play versus Dark types like Manabuzz and Obstagoon, though you're still really gonna get destroyed by Umbreon, of course. Then Dragalge I used to run with Gunk Shot, but in the current meta I would really suggest Outrage. I ran Gunk Shot in the past because there were quite a few Azumarill and Alola Ninetales around, which were very nice to Gunk Shot, but now you really need Outrage for Toxapex. Without it, you can't really hit it that hard. Besides that, Toxapex will probably scare away some of the fairy types like Azumarill and Alola Ninetales, so Gunk Shot probably won't come in that handy. This team doesn't have a direct dark answer, especially to Umbreon, Pawniard, and Manabuzz, so you will have to play around those, but it is extremely doable. I already have a video on the channel on how to run this team, so if you want more detail, go check that out. It was last year's meta, but it should all still be very similar anyway. We continue with another one of my favorite lineups from last season, built around Scizor. I really like Scizor in this format because you can beat basically all of the poison types besides Toxapex. You still make that very, very close. You beat most of the fairies, most of the bug types, do very fine against all of her dark types. Overall, it's an extremely good generalist that really only loses hard to fire types. Like Jellicent, you still got nice display there, so mainly just the fire types, which aren't that common. The main fire type that you'll see will probably be Alolan Marowak, so you've stacked up on counters for that with Drapion and Sableye, which are also two of the most flexible Pokemon in this format, so if you have a bad lead with Scizor, you can really switch into either one of them and be fine. On Scizor, I highly recommend you run Bullet Punch, Night Slash, and Iron Head. Or as a third, you could also consider running X-Scissor if you want to be a little stronger versus dark types like Umbreon and Obstagoon. But personally, I prefer Iron Head just because it's a harder hitting move in general. And it really helps versus Pokemon like Azumarill and Manabuzz if you can hit the Iron Head. Also, Shadow on Scizor is definitely preferred because that really helps you farm stuff down with Bullet Punch. For Drapion, I'd say the regular is preferred because you want that extra bulk so you can get to more crunches, stack up those debuffs. You're going to want to run Poison Sting, Crunch for sure on Drapion. And then the third move I'd say is up to you. You could go with Aqua Tail or Sludge Bomb. Personally, I highly recommend Sludge Bomb though, because that's just your hardest hitting move versus dark types, such as Umbreon and Manabuzz. Sableye, of course, Purified, gonna be preferred with Shadow Claw, Foul Play, and Return. But if you don't have a Purified one, I think a Shadow with Power Gem or a regular Power Gem could work fine in this meta too. You're gonna find that this team is extremely flexible and has a lot of play, though it's definitely not perfect. Pokemon like Manabuzz and Galvantula can be a bit of a pain to play around, but definitely not impossible. If you want more information on this team, I already put out a video last year on it, and a lot of that still applies, so go check that out. And then finally, a team for all the degenerates out there that just want to get their battles done as quickly as possible. This is Triple Shadow, basically all fast move pressure. This team was suggested to me by my friend Jim, also known as Wholesome_ on Twitch, last season of Halloween, and it did fantastic. Like, this team was actually really, really good. The video out on it as well, so if you want to see the strategies in depth, check that out. But basically, you're just gonna want to Poison Fang most things with your Shadow Golbat, and then just try to waterfall them down as quickly as possible with your Shadow Sharpedo, or smack them down as fast as possible with your Tyranitar. So the movesets are simple. On Golbat, Wing Attack, Poison Fang, Shadow Ball, Sharpedo, you're gonna want Waterfall, Poison Fang, and Crunch, of course, and then Tyranitar, Smackdown, Crunch, and Stone Edge. Keep in mind, on Tyranitar, Smackdown will be a legacy move, so if you don't have a Smackdown Shadow Tita ready, that will cost you an Elite Fast TM. There is one problem with this team in the new season, and that is Toxapex. This team doesn't deal amazingly with Toxapex. Tyranitar and Golbat probably being your best answers, but obviously not great. However, the side effect of Toxapex being in a meta also means less Azumarill, which were also kind of a problem for this Pokemon, especially Tyranitar. So I think this team will still be quite good. Anyway, that was it for today. Let me know what you're gonna run in the Halloween Cup down in the comments below. I'd love to know. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Good luck with your battles, trainers.